masks. If you wear a tight-fitting surgical type mask, which you never touch and which you throw away when you finish with it and don't reuse, then in a hospital setting with all kinds of other precautions, you will reduce the spread of infection. That's what they're used for in hospitals. If you wear a rectangle of cloth, which you constantly touch, which you take off and put on again, which is loose at the edges and not fitted, then nothing of the kind will happen. And this is perfectly obvious to anybody who thinks about it. And also, if you look at the graphs of the level of deaths and hospitalizations from COVID, you'll see that mask wearing was introduced pretty much when they'd reached rock bottom. So it isn't, everybody who knows anything about it and who understands the issue knows that they weren't introduced for medical reasons. The reason that they were introduced is yet more of this attempt to spread alarm and fear and keep people worrying about this threat, and therefore make them obedient to government diktat. The mask is a badge of obedience and assent to a daft government policy. It's one of the main reasons why people like me won't have anything to do with it and oppose it, because it's not a medical thing. It's like being forced to wear, if you were a liberal, or indeed me, I don't like President Trump either. It's like being forced to wear one of those red "Make America Great Again" baseball caps. Right. It's a declaration of support for a policy, and indeed, in the case of Mr. Johnson, a person of whom I deeply disapprove. Yeah. It's like the days when people in totalitarian countries had to wear the party badge, had to wear the party armband, had to fly the party flag on their balconies during party feast days, forced to assent to a policy you don't agree with. It's compelled speech. It's an assault on liberty. That's the reason for being against it. I mean, there are plenty of other reasons for not doing it. It's a repellent thing to have to do. And just looking at the poor, surrendered, submissive look of people scurrying around with their eyes peering over the top of them, it's pathetic to see grown men and women acting in this way, but and embarrassing in some ways. But I try to be pleasant and tolerant, because it's, as I say, from the start, I've treated believers in this scare story as if they were adherents of another religion to which one has to be polite.
Yes, no, I think that's the right thing to do, because we are still, despite everything, a relatively civilized society, and I think being civilized is the best way to fight back against this kind of tyranny that you describe.
Mike, interrupt there. Is it civilized when you have the police minister actually calling on people to inform on their neighbours?
Well, no, that's not civilized.
Still civilized when that's going on, or we should be worrying about slipping into uncivilization.
No. Listen, I take that point, and I agree with you. But what I would say is that our best form of defence against this tyranny is to be as civilized as possible. I'm hoping it won't come to what some people fear that it will come to, which is kind of civil unrest, where people will eventually say, one COVID marshal too many has come up to me and told me to do something, and I'm now going to punch him in the face. And obviously,
well, I hope not.
I hope not as well.
So much argue against that kind of behaviour. I think people should try to keep their tempers, and that works both ways. People shouldn't. I mean, it's unlikely that anyone's going to come up to me, a bearded fat bloke who's got reasonably broad shoulders and looks as if he could give you a hard time in the street and tell me to wear a mask. Right. But one does hear of women being seriously intimidated on this, and people should lay off. They have no idea. And there are definitely, particularly women who have been raped, who have a horror of having anything placed across their mouths. And that doesn't show. You wouldn't know, but people might come up to such a person and badger them to wear a mask, and it's quite unacceptable. Leave other people alone. Mind your own business.
But the trouble is, that's fine. The trouble is, with the advent of these COVID, how about this, right? Somebody sent me this today. Birmingham City Council would no doubt tell you that they haven't got any money. They are cash-strapped. They can't afford to supply children with books. They can't afford to drive children to school on school buses because the kids have to pay for it themselves. They have got a recruitment drive on to find 60 people to be COVID marshals. And here's the perks of the job. Immediate start, up to 3 months long is the duration. £10.42 per hour, including holiday pay. You get flexible working patterns with shift work across 7 days. Excellent opportunity to provide support back to your local community, and you will get free transport to different localities. I mean, where are they getting the money from for a start?
Well, they get it from Rishi Sunak's magic money forest, where all the money in the country now comes
forest.
from. We're a country awash in funny money.
Yeah,
which one week is
spent like Monopoly.
One week it's spent on telling us all to go out and eat ourselves silly and drink ourselves silly in restaurants at half price. The next week it's spent on telling us all to go home again and stop associating with each other.